Hello everybody, it's Megan here, the faithful fibromyalgia warrior, just as you can see in front of Colchester Castle. Well, not actually there, but so today, 23rd of July, I hope you're all doing well. Thank you so much for coming back to my channel. Appreciate all your support and all of your comments, questions, feedback, and support. So just before I get started, I wanted to just remind you guys very quickly, for those who don't know, I'm also known as Healing Foods Coach, and I am currently offering a limited time only introductory special price on one-to-one coaching sessions. That's typically a 2-hour block with me virtually, because I know some of you are all over the world. That would be a virtual appointment where we can get an assessment of where you're at, where you're starting from, health issues or concerns, things you want to see improved through Carnivore, and then I can, from that, make recommendations for you as far as some ideas to help you get started. So anyways, that's happening right now. So if you are interested at all in having some coaching, one-to-one support, either starting Carnivore, or you've started but maybe you want to tweak it, you need a bit more advice, you want to get some feedback, I'm happy to offer that as well. Check out the website over there at the bottom. You can book an appointment with me. Okay, that's out of the way now. So today's topic is Carnivore. How much should I eat? What should I eat? How do I get started? Now, let me just start by first saying this. What I choose to eat is what I've enjoyed and what is working for me at the moment. And it may also be perfect for you as far as how much I'm eating and when I eat during the day. However, I just wanted to say very quickly that Carnivore is absolutely all about learning to be eating intuitively. In other words, actually recognizing our true hunger signals from our bodies. Okay, so figuring out when we're actually hungry based on when our the hormone ghrelin is released, and also recognizing and learning to see and feel and notice when we are satiated. In other words, the leptin then goes out and tells us, hey, we're full and we need to stop eating. It's not based on eating at a set time. So the clock may say 8 o'clock a.m. and just because you always ate breakfast at 8 a.m. does not mean you have to eat then, and especially don't if you're not hungry. Okay, so it's figuring out how to realize true hunger, fueling your body, and then stopping when you feel full and satisfied. Okay, it's not about a predetermined X amount of grams of ground beef and for X amount of egg yolks and X amount of tablespoons of butter or X numbers of pieces of bacon. And it will be different for every single person. And one of the things I found very scary when I first started to do this was I had to start figuring out for myself what worked for me. I'm somebody where in my cycle of binging and purging and restricting and calorie counting and all the things that go with bulimia, I needed somebody to tell me, eat this, don't eat this, here's how much, here's when, do that, and just follow it. But because I had done that for so long, I stopped hearing what my body actually needed. And so for me to say, yeah, you know what, I typically scramble up about 3 egg yolks with maybe a tablespoon of butter for breakfast. I typically will add in, I'll chop up like maybe half or a quarter of a piece of chicken breast and throw that in there. And that's all I need. Okay, and that, for right now, that works great for me. However, somebody else may be much hungrier, and that isn't going to be enough to fuel their bodies, give them energy, and get them through the day. And so, unfortunately, there isn't a prescribed answer that applies to everyone other than eat the muscle meats of animals, meaning fish and seafood, any kind of poultry or bird, any sort of red meat, whether it's cow, whether it's beef, bison, buffalo, oxen, elk, deer, who knows, in some parts of the world, maybe it's zebra, any ruminant animal like lamb, anything like that that you can eat the meat, the muscle meat of, that's included, as well as pork, as well as fish and seafood and eggs and milk and dairy for those of you with no intolerances and who seem to be okay with it. Okay? All of those things is what I'm referring to. So my first tip would be, obviously, cut out all the processed garbage. Anything that comes in a package, don't eat it. Cut it out. Okay? Because it is full of chemicals. It is not good for us. Science and studies have shown this is the case. And even the things that might seem like they would be healthier probably aren't, because they are kept in a package. And therefore, they've had stuff added to them. Shelf stable, it comes in a package, don't eat it. Cut out everything processed, all the junk food, all the industrial seed oils, that includes all the margarines, all these vegetable oils people cook with, cut all that out. Because truly, it's not good for us, okay? It's probably easier to talk about the things we don't eat as opposed to prescribing things to eat. All right, so cut out all the seed oils, cut out all the processed junk and crap and garbage, even if it's things like crackers and whole wheat toast or whole wheat bread and fortified cereals with no added sugar that seem good, they're not, okay? They're shelf stable, don't eat them. The other thing I would recommend, particularly if you have gut issues, certainly, is get rid of all plant materials. There are people who are able to tolerate some vegetables. And I would say, obviously, cut out the highly starchy, high carb vegetables and most fruits. Okay, get rid of those, because all you're doing is you're adding carbs, which become glucose in the blood, and you're lots of fruit, which contains typically fructose and glucose. And all you're doing in that case is you are hiking up your insulin because you've hiked up your blood sugar levels. And as long as your body has got high levels of insulin, it cannot break down, digest, and metabolize and make use of the stored body fat that we have on our bodies, which is what we want. We want that. When we start to use the fat we have stored, we burn that body fat. That's how we will start to lose weight. When we cut out carbohydrates, that is when our body will start to release everything it's holding in, all the excess fluid, inflammation, all of that starts to go. You will start to pee a whole lot more in the beginning. That's very normal, because all of this is fluid you've been retaining. Most of this is fluid you've been retaining because of the amount of carbohydrates you've been consuming. Once you get rid of the carbs, all this fluid that our body doesn't want to keep gets released. It's incredible, okay? So those are the things you don't want. I personally eat no plants, I eat no fruit. I absolutely never eat nuts, seeds, legumes, pulses, grains, or cereals, because otherwise it does set off IBS and causes me gut issues. Otherwise, I would suggest you don't want them in your diet for the most part anyhow. These things are often very high in fiber, which is kind of like the sworn mortal enemy for those of us with IBS, IBD, Crohn's, colitis, and other gut issues like SIBO as well. Okay, so you want to get rid of all of that first. If you've cut out all plant materials, eaten plant materials, okay? If you like to enjoy a cup of coffee, it's different. You're not eating the plant. It's water that's been colored by running hot water over the grinds of a bean. You're not actually consuming the bean itself. Okay? So, Not talking about a coffee. And for some people, not even talking about tea, although tea does contain tannins, which is a different problem. But I'm talking about the ones we physically chew with our mouths that have to go through the process of digestion and elimination from the body. Okay, start there. So don't eat. I would suggest, if you're starting and if you've had a multitude of health issues like me, including IBS or IBD or ulcerative colitis or Crohn's or any other gut issues, including even celiac disease, although that is not just a gut issue, that is an allergic-like response to gluten. Cut all the plants out. So what do you eat? Well, the advice I took to heart, which is not something I just invented or made up by myself. I heard this in a Dr. Ken Berry video. I can't remember which one. It was a few years ago now. But his advice was this: think about what animal products do you think you like, or that do you know you like, that you would want to try to eat, that you can afford, and that is relatively easy for you to get. Start there. And the reason I say that is, well, because most of us can't afford to eat steak every day. Okay, now steak is great, don't get me wrong. When it's done well and it's cooked properly, it's delicious. But most steaks, other than a ribeye or even a New York strip, tend to be very lean cuts of meat. Okay, which means for those of us, particularly as females, who are trying to keep our hormones in balance or get them back in balance, we will likely need more fat in our diet, dietary fat, than our male counterparts. And so certainly, you know, a nice sirloin or something like that every once in a while, not a problem. Enjoy it. However, the higher the fat content, I have found, for myself at least, the better. I do better with not as much protein. I need some protein. We all need protein. Okay, we need those amino acids, certainly, for building blocks in our body. We need protein. However, you will probably want to stick to the protein that comes with a higher fat naturally. Also, keep in mind, fat is more dense in nutrition than just protein itself. And fat is satisfying. When you eat something that has got a good quantity of dietary fat included, you're going to feel satisfied and satiated for a much longer period. So you're gradually going to find that you don't have to rush out and eat constantly. That's what carbohydrates do, okay? It's quick fuel energy. But what happens is when we eat it, our body uses what we eat right away, but if we eat more than we need, the excess is stored as body fat. We'll never actually burn that body fat as long as we're constantly eating carbohydrates, because the body will just make use of what it eats. We think we're hungry, so an hour or two later, we have to eat again, and then again, and then again. And so we snack constantly throughout the day. When we are eating proteins that come with good dietary fats as part of that particular source of protein, we are satisfied for far longer. So for me, that's why my go-to is always ground beef, fatty ground beef. So in North America, I think it's just labeled strictly as regular ground beef, and that's typically 23 to 25% fat. Here in the UK, they don't generally provide beef that is higher than 20% fat content. So if you get, and it will say on the actual bag itself, 20%, referring to 20% of the meat you've bought, that ground beef is fat, saturated fat, which is awesome. We need it. It's good. It builds cholesterol in us. It's good for the hormones. We absolutely need it. And it's satisfying and it's delicious. Okay? That's my go-to favorite thing to eat. Ground beef, fatty ground beef, a little bit of salt to taste. That's my favorite go-to. And it's so quick and easy. Just chuck it in the frying pan. 5-10 minutes later, voila. Okay. But let's say you don't like beef for whatever reason. Okay. You don't have to eat beef. You may want to try lamb. If you don't like lamb, and not everybody does, that's okay. So what else can you do? You can try eating things like the dark meat off of chicken and turkey, because that's going to be higher in fat content, which will help you feel fuller and more satisfied. And so therefore you don't feel like you have to eat as much. You can eat less and feel less hungry for much longer, right? Eggs, fantastic. If you're able to tolerate the whites and the yolks, you're lucky. I can't do egg whites anymore, but the egg yolks is where all the good fats are, and that's amazing. So if you could only do egg yolks, go for it. Those are also excellent sources of fat and protein. You can also try things like drumsticks and chicken wings, because that's where the darker meat is. But, of course, there's a lot less of it. It's a lot of bone, only a little bit of meat. And so you may find you have to eat more and more to try to feel satisfied. But it is a suggestion. It is a possibility. If you enjoy fish, try going for the oilier, fattier fish. So salmon, mackerel, those would be my first two that I would say off the top. I personally hate fish. I think it's disgusting. I can't stand it, but I know people do like it. So try to go for the oilier, fattier fish, because at least you feel a little bit fuller. My experience with fish is typically whatever you get, it's not enough. I always felt hungry afterwards, and I had a histamine reaction to fish. Okay? And some people do. So you may have to have fish and maybe some shrimp or prawn, and you may have to have eggs with that, and you may have to mix and match some different sources together in order to feel satisfied. The point of carnivore is that we eat until we feel satisfied, until we feel full. So a couple of tips with that is also, don't go rushing through your meal. Sit down, eat slowly, sip water in between, because it takes our brains time to register, oh, I've eaten, I'm full, I'm not hungry now. If we eat too quickly, we don't give our brains enough time to register the fact that we put fuel in our bodies and that actually we've had plenty to fill us up and we should be satisfied. So make sure you eat slow, take your time so that you can register the fact that I've eaten, I'm okay now. And of course, a lot of people love bacon or sausages, which bacon's great because obviously if you get the streaky kind, then you got all that nice streaks of fat with the meat. But pork, generally speaking, outside of how bacon is cut, is a leaner meat. It's considered the alternative white meat to chicken or turkey. So if you are somebody like me who probably needs to have higher saturated fats, or just, obviously fats, to help heal and keep hormones running smoothly, then you may not want to have a whole lot of pork. Have some, but you may find you have to add in a bit of butter. You may have to have, of course, bacon and eggs, but maybe you're going to do sausages and eggs or an omelet with sausages on the side. So you may need to add multiple things together on your plate in order to feel satisfied. And there is no one end-all be-all meal solution for every person, because we are all biodiverse. God made us all individually. We all have very different needs, and how much we're going to need to eat will depend on a lot of things, like, are we active? Are we sedentary? Are we dealing with chronic inflammation and pain? Are we dealing with some sort of injury where we can't do a lot of movement? Those are factors. Also, not only how much excess weight are we carrying, but how much of that weight is excess body fat? What is our lean muscle mass? How much body fat do we need to get rid of? will also be a determination in how much we may need to eat to lose that weight. Now, I will say something, and believe it or not, but it's true, is that in order for me to have lost weight and body fat, I had to eat fat, saturated fat. Not the fat that, processed carbs and crap turn into when they get stored away. Saturated fats. I needed to up my fat intake. I needed to eat better sources of protein, not just an occasional, piece of chicken breast once in a while with a whole plate full of spinach and greens and all of that. No, I needed to eat more sources of animal protein with the fat they came with naturally. So I know for some of you who are hoping, oh, tell me how much of each I need every day. I can't. And anybody who tells you that there's a specific formula that will work for everyone, I wouldn't believe that. Okay? The only thing that is true is that good, healthy, fatty sources of animal protein are key for health and healing. Beyond that, you will have to figure out, what do you like? What don't you like? What can you tolerate? What can you definitely not tolerate? And what can you afford? And start there. So for somebody, if you do okay with deli meats and things like a charcuterie board, start with that. Go with that, because it's still better than eating potato chips and cookies, right? And so you don't have to have these delightful Wagyu grass massage finished and treated steaks. You can go out and get yourself, half a pound of ground beef that's got at least 20% fat to it. Start with that. Maybe you want something more than just plain ground beef, so throw in some egg yolks. Cook it all together. Maybe make some bacon and fry up some chicken and beef with butter and eggs. I don't know, like the selections may be repetitive, but how you put them together, that can be different. And you'll figure out the things that you really love and crave and that your body absolutely wants, and you'll go from there. So I hope this is helpful. I really do, because again, I can based on your specific individual needs, I can make targeted references based on things you like, things you don't like, any food issues you have. I can do that, one-to-one. But as far as just general information, I would suggest what Dr. Berry has already said in a number of his videos, which is figure out what animal sources of protein, fatty sources of protein, you like, and that you can afford. And go with that, because this way of eating is meant to be something we can sustain. And so it's not about spending a ridiculous amount of sum on some super pricey steaks that maybe only become available twice a year. It's about finding good animal sources of protein that have all the good fats with them, that aren't overly lean, that you can buy from anywhere, any time of the year, without breaking the bank. All right, so I hope this is helpful. If you have any questions or any further comments, please don't hesitate to get in touch. Please let me know. As always, thank you for your kind words and your ongoing support, and I wish you all the best. Here's to health and healing through Carnivore. Again, if you are interested in some one-to-one coaching and support, I always do that. I always point to the wrong side. Sorry. I have a special offer going on now on my website. Feel free to check it out and book an appointment if you're interested, and we can work more specifically with your detailed sort of medical history and current situation. But other than that, guys, just eat the animal meats, the fats they come with, and if you need to, maybe add a bit more dietary fat like butter, but it is really not supposed to be super complicated. It should be pretty straightforward. And we have to, you know, do a little bit of experimenting, trying as we go along, but we'll get there, right? Anyways, I really hope this is helpful. Thank you for your time, especially because it's a longer one today. Thank you so much for your support. And I will be back tomorrow with more content. See you guys in the next video. Bye for now.